Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about Disney's live-action adaptations of their animated movies. I thought this would be an interesting one in that I don't like this idea of them doing this at all. And I'm going to have two scenarios, basically. The first is, stop doing it, because no one likes it at all. I know these things make money. Financially, I understand why they keep making them. As a studio, they make a shit ton of money. They really do. Beauty and the Beast was like a ridiculous hit. As a studio, I get theoretically they cannot stop making them. But in the first scenario, they just do that. Because I don't like them, and I don't think anyone really likes them other than Pete's Dragon. They're pretty much garbage movies. So what would we do instead, basically? And that's that I would actually like to see some of these Disney animated films on the big screen. I got to do that as a kid, and repertory screenings are much more of a thing now than they were when they kind of started this live action adaptation nonsense. And I would actually want them to just let these films be played at repertory like Alamo Drafthouse things, like Fathom event sort of things, or do the big re-release like they used to. Disney made most of their money and made most of their films actual hits by just re-releasing them every 7 years or so. The last one I think was Lion King in 3D. You don't really need to put them in 3D, that's stupid. Just re-release them in theaters. Like, I would love to take my daughter to see any of their films re-released in theaters, or make it a Fathom events thing. Be like, hey, every summer you can see The Jungle Book in May for like one night only, or like for a week or something like that. Make it a limited thing, and you'll always have like this revenue stream. They won't be like these huge massive things, but there's plenty of avenues to play older films at this point. It's not as rare as it used to be, and it's sort of weird that a studio who used to make a lot of money doing that sort of just stopped to make these live action things. So just do away with them and let these films be released, or do it every 7 years and do a big campaign when, like, you know, there's nothing out at the time. Close Encounters did it recently. I've noticed reissues and re-releasing older films is more common now anyway. I think you could do it, but you know, with the smaller stuff, you could let Alamo Drafthouse play Aristocats one night or something like that, or, you know, the more obscure compilation films, and, you know, actually breathe life into the catalog and restore them and give them a nice re-release. And then you have them restored for your streaming service. You let them play them digitally, or potentially give them a print. Maybe that's too much money. You don't have to make these like huge, you know, deposits of money, which you don't really need because Disney has 40% of the box office. What's like the point? You're not like necessarily needing this. If it was a studio that needed hits to keep going, I sort of get it, but like Disney really doesn't. So this way you're keeping your animated hits alive. That helps your theme parks and all those things, and your kids can be like, I had a wonderful time and invigorated my imagination to see this and that. And you can also help the lesser titles, because all these smaller art theaters will play something like Black Cauldron or something like that, or, you know, the more obscure ones, you know, Hercules or Treasure Planet or Atlantis or things like that, like, or Dinosaur. It could really actually help your smaller animated films that kind of don't get discovered as often. I think it could actually be really good for the studio to do that. Option number two is like, if I cared about these movies and we had to still do them, which sucks. So I crunched some numbers unofficially by using the subtraction. So right now there are 56 Disney animated films. I'm not counting Ralph Breaks the Internet because that hasn't come out yet. Let's say there are 56 for argument's sake. I'm going to subtract 6 for being too new. Basically, Tangled and Beyond, we're not doing that at this time. That's just like too new. We got to get some of that nostalgic factor, and nobody's nostalgic for like Frozen yet. It's just like, you know, like you got to wait until it's like a big deal that like some actress who's like, I remember seeing it in theaters and now I'm Elsa, you know, that's like, we're not counting those right now. Then I'm going to subtract, so we're at 50 films now. So then -7 for compilation movies. Then anything live action that has been done or is in development. So that subtracts 17. I could find evidence of 17 that counts. Alice in Wonderland, Maleficent, all that stuff. 17. Now granted, that includes Pete's Dragon, but I'm going to add 3 of Mary Poppins, Bedknobs and Broomsticks and Pete's Dragon. Then I'm going to subtract 2 from 2 sequels, which is Fantasia 2000 and Rescuers Down Under. So then we're at to 21. Then I'm going to subtract Pocahontas, because fucking no, that's not happening. So then we're down to 18. But see, here's the problem. You've basically taken all the big brands of the Disney live action. which I think that math was really bad. So like whatever, I'm sure someone in the comments will do it better, but I don't care. The point is like you have taken all the big brands that were animated brands and turned them live action. I understand that, but at a certain point you're gonna sort of like run out of things to adapt. You know, like you're doing Cruella, you're doing A Sword in the Stone, you're doing A Lady and the Tramp, which is going to be for streaming only, and you burn through most of the Disney Renaissance, all of, in fact. Next year, in 2019 summer, it's like pretty like gross the amount of stuff they have coming out. It's like, well, I mean, on top of Avengers 4, Toy Story 4, they also have both Aladdin live action and The Lion King live action, and then Dumbo before that, and then Mary Poppins before that. By the end, you're just like, oh my god, guys, like, chill the fuck out. That's like too many. Aladdin should have its own summer. They're just like dominating because they can at a certain point. So I kind of wish they would actually go back and go, hey, what brands are we like not doing anything with? What could we do something interesting with? Like, why haven't they announced like a Rescuers live action thing? That could be kind of cool. I don't think you could get someone cast as cool as Bob Newhart, but you could at least try, you know? And that's already a franchise, one of like your first that went theatrical. So that way, you know, you can do the first two and then do an original third one or something. Maybe also, you know, you made all these directed VHS live action things. Apparently Cinderella 3 is the one some people like. Why not do that? You made an Alice in Wonderland 2. I guess it's based on the book or something. I don't care. Point is, like, do something different with these brands. If you're going to burn through like all the popular ones, don't do that. Like, differentiate. What they need to do is go like, hey, let's do a lesser known brand like Black Cauldron, which you could do a much better job rebooting than you did, you know, actually do the books justice in live action when fantasy's really big. Instead of having Aladdin and Lion King in the same summer, which sounds stupid, have Black Cauldron and then Lion King, and have like a smaller thing that, and Black Cauldron could be a franchise because it's based on a series of books. Same with, I think, The Rescuers could be a franchise. Those are franchises just naturally sitting there. I also don't think you should do 101 Dalmatians too soon because that happened in the 90s, but you know, it seems like they're already doing that with Cruella, possibly starring Emma Stone. That was part of the -17 thing. But that's would be my advice. I also think the Sleepy Hollow short they did, that could be a movie, and you get Doug Jones to play Ichabod. If you look at the character of Ichabod and Doug Jones, that would be awesome. I don't know who would direct it. It's just an idea I had. I don't really think that most of this is feasible in the long term, because it's not like you can keep remaking 101 Dalmatians live action over and over again when you've just kind of just remade it too many times, where the value of the original animated one doesn't have as much value because you like reintroduced all this other crap under its name. It's like you're kind of redoing the problem people had with those animated sequels, where you're like, what is this nonsense? I just want to see that one movie. I don't want to see this other movie. And that's something Disney's never quite understood. I think that's the biggest problem with this. It's like, what exactly are you doing with it? Like in Ichabod, the Sleepy Hollow movie I sort of get, or like The Night at Bald Mountain, I think like that could sort of be something interesting, but at the same time it's like I'd much rather watch those cartoons. And I think that's the biggest flaw in this. It's like you are kind of bringing up your brands for the theme parks and making them excited so that they can then admire the crap from the original one. And I think that's ultimately the biggest issue with this franchise overall. Nobody really loves these movies other than Pete's Dragon, which was great. It's like, why do like Mulan so early? The theory probably that it'll play well in China and things like that. I just sort of think they should have like not done so many of the 90s movies, because like the 70s stuff isn't as beloved. I don't think they're going to do Robin Hood, especially with the new Robin Hood movie. I feel like that Snow White thing they're going to delay until like the last possible date they even have. And frankly, they don't need these films, but if they're going to do it, the biggest thing they need to fix, let people see The Lion King on the big screen again. Let people see Aladdin. Like if I could see Aladdin on the big screen, I would freak out. Or Dumbo or Pinocchio. I've seen Dumbo and Pinocchio on the big screen. Have a limited run of the Beauty and the Beast work in progress cut. Like show your more interesting, weirder stuff. Play, you know, a night of Goofy shorts or something, or Mickey Mouse shorts, or even the newer Mickey Mouse shorts. Like there's a lot there you could do, but instead you're like making these sort of worthless films that don't help your brand in the long term. And frankly, guys, you don't fucking need the money at this point. It's just stupid. And especially you're making like a Lady and the Tramp for streaming. Like I don't even want that garbage. Like when it's on streaming, guess what? I'm not gonna watch that crap. You know, I'll probably end up reviewing it and go, hey guys, it's me, Jim, I hate myself. And like, that'll be like what I do. I think there are interesting things in their animated collection. And if you had a director who could do something interesting with it and not do like Maleficent or Christopher Robin, where you're basically going like, hey, we found an interesting thing. It's sort of like other not interesting things. You're like, what the? No, that's not what I mean. And don't even fucking touch Pixar. Like, just don't. And I know you've thought about it. Just don't do it. Don't. Please. I know Lasseter's not there anymore. You know, his touchy hands aren't gone. But like, just don't do that. Just don't. I don't want a live action Bugs Life. I don't want a live action Bugs Life. I don't want a reboot of any of your bigger. And oh well, okay. One thing I will say, I think when they did the Parent Trap, don't do the Parent Trap again. I'm sure you're doing it on Disney Channel. That does not exist to me anyway. That live action sitcom crap is garbage. But a lot of the stuff Haley Mills did with Disney and Kurt Russell did, that is stuff you could do, and their franchise is just sitting there, and they're cool for young girls and stuff, and just like make a new Disney star theatrically. We don't need to have this crap only on the Disney Channel. There's lots of stuff in your library, like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, that David Fincher would have loved to do, but you guys like didn't. It's like, do those movies. Though 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea with Fincher sounds cool to me. Do the interesting films in your catalog that you can do things with. Don't just like keep redoing the same brands and making them worse for money reasons and market share that you just don't need. There's plenty of stuff that you could reinvigorate. Snow White and Cinderella are still going to be huge movies regardless of what year it is. You don't need to like remind a generation. Guess what? We know it's cool. You're gonna have a streaming service where hopefully we'll be able to watch all that stuff, and you won't need to make these. By the way, if streaming kills this franchise, I will be so happy. That was amazing. Look into the Haley Mills films that were not Parent Trap. Look into that kind of stuff and see like, hey, what do we have here that is very profitable that we could make stuff of? And don't look at Tron again or Black Hole or something like that. Like, look at the older, more interesting stuff that is a big name that people would be into, and find different ways to rebound it and reboot it. Like, hey, maybe there's a director who has a really good, Treasure Island in them or something, and you're like, hey, this could work. That didn't fall apart like in John Carter or something. So just that's what I would say, because you can't really do Tarzan or Hercules or Hunchback of Notre Dame, because it's like those aren't necessarily thought of as just Disney things also. So that's like another -3. So just like, there's only so far this franchise can go when you're remaking things. So think of the things that are unconventional. Think of the things that you can do interesting things with. And there's plenty of those that Disney owns the rights to that they're just frankly not doing with, hey, like, let's reboot Davy Crockett and having him in a dystopian future or something. I don't know. Who cares? You just like, I'm sure that's been kicked around. But like the Haley Mills stuff, a lot of those, like where she's a girl solving a mystery, are actually fun little movies, and you could do that for like $12 million with a Disney star that could really, use the career boost, I guess. I don't know. Or what's Selena Gomez doing? Just like, get one of those people, just do it. It's fine. People would love it. But like, as far as the Disney live action to animation thing, it really just needs to have some sort of management other than what's a big brand. It needs to be maybe what's a big brand and what's interesting, and they need to think of maybe the Guardians of the Galaxy kind of attempt at finding characters who normally people wouldn't be as into, but having a brand strong enough that people will go see it, unless Disney doesn't have that much faith in themselves, which is pretty clear since they're just like burning through everything that's really big with this generation. That's how I would fix it. I would differentiate it. I would find new things. I would find things in the compilation stuff. I would find shorts we could do interesting things with. I wouldn't just rely on remakes of The Lion King and Aladdin constantly happening. Maybe once a year at most, and that's all I would do. In all honesty, I would go with option number 1 and stop this fucking garbage and just actually re-release the things that we're actually kind of just hinting at and remaking, and I would just let the Disney catalog be able to be on the big screen where it deserves to be, because I remember growing up and seeing Fantasia was a big moment for me as a kid. Seeing Peter Pan, I saw the Renaissance when it came out, or like seeing Bambi. Those were big moments in my childhood, and unfortunately these kids don't get to do that. Unfortunately, they get to see the crap live action things, and I think that's really the damn shame in what they're doing. And they could really just make a ton of money of maybe going like, hey, every Christmas we have Beauty and the Beast, or we have this, or just have it in theaters because the screens are available and you have this thing and it'd be easy to do. And they just frankly don't. And that's probably the most upsetting thing, is they have, a really rich, amazing cinematic experience for the whole family that just be a pretty easy thing to re-release and help their brand dominance kind of thing. And wouldn't involve kind of redoing and having your favorite stars in your Disney film when really you never really wanted that or needed that in the first place. So if you would like to talk about how you would, or what you thought of how I would fix Disney's live action adaptations of their animated movies, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.